Time of supply of goods. Liability to pay tax on goods shall arise at the time of supply, and the time of supply of goods shall be the earlier of the following dates. A. The date of issue of invoice by the supplier, or the last date on which he is required under Section 31, subsection 1, to issue the invoice with respect to the supply. B. The date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. Provided that where the supplier of taxable goods receives an amount up to Rs 1,000 in excess of the amount indicated in the tax invoice, the time of supply to the extent of such excess amount shall, at the option of the said supplier, be the date of issue of invoice in respect of such excess amount. Time of supply of services. The liability to pay tax on services shall arise at the time of supply, and the time of supply of services shall be the earliest of the following dates. A. The date of issue of invoice by the supplier, if the invoice is issued within the period prescribed, under Section 31. Subsection 2, or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier, or B. The date of provision of service, if the invoice is not issued within the period prescribed, under Section 31. Subsection 2, or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier, or C. The date on which the recipient shows the receipt of services in his books of account, in a case where the provisions of Clause A, or Clause B, do not apply. Provided that where the supplier of taxable service receives an amount up to Rs 1,000 in excess of the amount indicated in the tax invoice, the time of supply to the extent of such excess amount shall, at the option of the said supplier, be the date of issue of invoice relating to such excess amount. Value of taxable supply. The value of a supply of goods or services or both shall be the transaction value, which is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply of goods or services or both where the supplier and the recipient of the supply are not related and the price is the sole consideration for such supply. The value of supply shall include a. Any taxes, duties, cesses, fees and charges levied under any law for the time being in force other than this Act, the SGST Act, the UTGST Act and the Goods and Services Tax Compensation to States Act, if charged separately by the supplier. B. Any amount that the supplier is liable to pay in relation to such supply but which has been incurred by the recipient of the supply and not included in the price actually paid or payable for the goods or services or both. C. Incidental expenses, including commission and packing, charged by the supplier to the recipient of a supply and any amount charged for anything done by the supplier in respect of the supply of goods or services or both at the time of or before delivery of goods or supply of services. D. Interest or late fee or penalty for delayed payment of any consideration for any supply, and E. Subsidies direct lie linked to the price excluding subsidies provided by the central government and state governments. Note, the amount of subsidy shall be included in the value of supply of the supplier who receives the subsidy. The value of the supply shall not include any discount given 1. before or at the time of the supply and the same has been recorded in the invoice. 2. After the supply has been effected, if 1. Such discount is established in terms of an agreement entered into at or before the time of such supply and specifically linked to relevant invoices, and 2. Input tax credit as is attributable to the discount on the basis of document issued by the supplier has been reversed by the recipient of the supply. 3. Where the value of the supply of goods or services or both cannot be determined in the prescribed manner. Place of supply of goods or services or both. The place of supply of goods, other than supply of goods imported into, or exported from India, shall be as under. Where the supply involves movement of goods, whether by the supplier or the recipient or by any other person, the place of supply of such goods shall be the location of the goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. The place of supply of goods 1. Imported into India shall be the location of the importer. 2. Exported from India shall be the location outside India. The place of supply of services. Except the services specified in subsections 3 to 14. 1. Made to a registered person shall be the location of such person. 2. Made to any person other than a registered person shall be a. The location of the recipient where the address on record exists, and b. The location of the supplier of services in other cases. For further details refer the relevant GST acts.